This video is sponsored by Workday. Transparency builds trust with both your clients and your employees. You are viewed as having high ethical standards, which creates credibility and is beneficial for your brand. Another thing beneficial for your brand, flexibility in two directions, towards the customers and towards the employees. Being agile to take on new challenges as a company, as well as being flexible where your employees are concerned. When you accommodate the various needs and schedules of your employees and allow them a better work-life balance, they will work harder and feel more committed to help you achieve your goals. Welcome to Global Tech Box. I'm your host, Cedric Bullock, and in this series, we talk to CFOs of fast-growing startups from Switzerland and Austria who are generously sharing their insights and experiences with fellow CFOs. We partnered with Workday, who is a leading provider of enterprise cloud applications for financial management, human resources, planning, spend management, and analytics, basically everything you need as a CFO of a fast-growing startup. These tools and solutions have been adopted by thousands of organizations around the world and across industries. This is the second of 4 episodes where we talk to CFOs of the fastest-growing startups in Europe. We will discuss 4 main topics from different perspectives: growth, transparency and flexibility, scaling, and last but not least, compliance. The CFOs will shed some lights on these topics and share their experiences, learnings, failures, and successes. Watching these videos and taking the insights can give you guidance during these challenging times, and more importantly, gives you a peek into the thinking of leading CFOs. You can easily sign up to get all these videos directly into your inbox with the link in the description below. In this video, I'm going to sit down with the CFOs of Comparis, Refurbed, Beekeeper, and Gamaya to talk about transparency and flexibility in the workplace. If you haven't already, check out the first video in this series where we talk about growth. Just click in the link in the description below. When people hear of the term transparency, they may assume it means giving out a lot of data to seem trustworthy. This viewpoint just turns out to be inconvenient for your employees as well as your customers. And as we'll hear, it's not true transparency. Vivian Moore from Comparis, a comparison platform for health insurance, telecom providers, and more, tells us about what transparency actually looks like for the company.
Transparency is extremely important because it helps aid alignment, and transparency is important in a sense that you create a common basis of exchange. What transparency doesn't mean is that you dump massive amounts of data on everybody for whom it's not relevant. And I think it's something that's often confused.
According to Igor Ivanov, the CFO and co-founder of Gamaya, things like transparency and flexibility are provided at different levels depending on whether you are a client, a board member, or an employee.
You have to be fully transparent with your employees, the same way as you're transparent with your investors. If you have distorted message between between what you communicate to investors or board of directors and your employees, you will inevitably face some challenges and issues. And when it comes to flexibility, I mean, it's much more broad word than just transparency. This is kind of like inherited already in digital services. If you provide digital services, you have to be flexible by default. You have to adapt the business model.
Igor is talking about Gamaya, the agronomy solution enabled by remote sensing and artificial intelligence, which therefore helps improve the efficiency and sustainability of farming businesses. Igor's approach towards flexibility is focused on the advantage and necessity of agility in the digital service industry. Refurbed is another online platform providing a digital service. Refurbed is a Vienna-based marketplace for refurbished electronics. For Peter Windishofer, transparency and flexibility are an essential part of his company.
Everybody knows, okay, where are we right now? Are we overachieving the goal or are we actually trailing? And that gives a lot of people the feeling of, we are one company, we are all working together into the same direction. In terms of flexibility, obviously we're very young and dynamic company, so it's inherent in our culture and in our people that we're all flexible and working on multiple priorities and changing priorities all the time. For us, it's more about finding the right balance of focus and priorities versus still capturing new opportunities.
Similarly, Vivian from Comparis also ensures the company is open with their employees and they are all on the same page.
Share the financial results transparently to all employees, so everybody who works here knows what the situation of the company is. We also very transparently share the challenges that we're having in the company, and of course through the joint planning days and the resource prioritization, everybody in the company basically knows what is going on, or at least has a means of finding out what is going on in other areas.
It's hard to measure the degree of transparency and flexibility afforded to clients and employees, but of course, this is something you have to look at more deeply and nuanced to understand relationships and culture within the organization.
It's a culture that we have to build. It's not like we don't use tools because we are still, very small organization, right? Mm-hmm. We are 35, so we can communicate easily with each other, and we can see. You can easily, people will easily see if you're transparent or not.
Smaller companies have a much simpler task to keep everyone up to date and informed about the most recent data, while larger companies do require a more complex business intelligence system in place to make sure everyone continuously knows where things are standing.
We have a BI tool where everybody in the company can see the sales and how much money we're spending on marketing and the most important KPIs, always in real time. And we always communicate our goals publicly to everybody.
The end goal, of course, is clarity, as Herbert Zablotny from Beekeeper will tell you. Beekeeper is an online platform that connects non-desk workers with the company, so they feel like they're working right besides each other and everyone is on the same page. So you can be sure that aligning everyone is one of their top priorities in their organization.
I think clarity is super important both for management in general and CFO. You want to be clear about things. You don't want to be ambiguous. You want to say we go left. And at the same time, we all know when you drive a race car that maybe there's a bump in the road or there's an opportunity to take a shortcut, and then actually you want to change your mind. And I think that trade-off is always there inherently, and it's certainly a challenge and something we continue to work on all the time.
But being transparent and flexible where your employees and clients are concerned is not always a walk in the park. Sometimes you face challenges, sometimes you don't know what needs to be shared and what doesn't.
So the biggest challenge we really have is treading the fine line of, genuinely being transparent and not hiding anything that's relevant, but at the same time making sure that you don't overload people with information. And that's a very fine line to thread.
Because it can actually demotivate. Instead of being transparent, you can demotivate people. So there is always a thin line between what you want to communicate and still obviously be transparent with your team.
The finance expert from Workday, Frank Menz, agrees with this point.
It needs to be relevant, it needs to be accurate, and it needs to be in time. Mm-hmm. Right? And then you are good to go, right? If you're providing information that is, let's say, not relevant, and it's funny enough that you see studies being around on the market that are showing, for example, that 80% of the reporting that is existing in companies, nobody's looking at. Right? So 80% of the reports that are being produced in finance, right, with really intense effort, sometimes with man days and woman hours at night or whatever, right, are not being looked at, right? So the question is for good CFOs, what is relevant to make better decisions for growth, for agility, right? And then provide it accurate and in real time, right? Because nothing is more irrelevant if you are looking at a report that you don't trust.
So how can Workday help CFOs in providing transparency and flexibility in their organization?
Maybe it's good to step back one step, right? Because I think the first point that companies need to recognize is that actually people are sitting in their home offices or are in their offices, right? And they want to use a system that they really like. So user experience is key to everything. In the past, it was more or less based on the experience that customers have, right? But what we see is getting more and more important is the experience for the employees as well, right? So nobody wants to have a system that is so hard to use that people simply don't use it. So the adoption rate is key for Workday when it comes to how many people are using the system. The second thing is that it needs to contain the right information, right? If you look at most people that are working for fast-growing companies, they are there for a reason. They want to make an impact, right? So you need to show them how big that impact is on a daily basis. That means the system needs to run in real time and provide the transparency back to the people what impact they're making on a daily basis.
CFO Talks, sponsored by Workday, will be back next week, and we'll be taking a look at scaling a startup in Europe, a fascinating topic. Hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to make sure you don't miss the new videos. I'm Cedric Bollock, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.